In the fall of 2024, alarms rang out across Ukraine and the West. Over 10,000 North Korean troops had arrived in Russia. Their presence alone was enough to ignite serious concern. These weren't just any soldiers. North Korean forces are infamous for their strict discipline and unwavering loyalty, following orders without hesitation, no matter the cost. Now, they were poised to bolster Russia's faltering war effort, but the real shock wasn't the 10,000 already there. It was the looming threat behind them. Reports warned that up to 100,000 North Korean troops could soon flood the battlefield. Picture it, wave after wave of relentless soldiers, fiercely obedient and unyielding. Such an army wouldn't just reinforce Russia's ranks. It had the potential to change the very dynamics of the war. And then, their moment came. Their first real test in the conflict. But instead of striking fear, smashing through Ukrainian defenses, or turning the tide of battle, these so-called reinforcements did something nobody expected. They killed their own allies. They killed Russians, the very soldiers they were sent to support. This is the story of how North Korea's grand debut in the Russo-Ukrainian War became yet another humiliating chapter in Russia's troubled campaign. This humiliating event unfolded in Kursk Oblast, a region in western Russia. Its location was no coincidence. North Korean troops had been deployed here to help reclaim the area. Why? Because back in August, Ukrainian forces launched a stunning offensive, crossing the border and capturing nearly 500 square miles of Russian territory. Russia scrambled to respond, mounting a counteroffensive in September. By late November, Russian forces managed to regain roughly 40% of the lost ground, with North Korean troops reportedly playing a role in the effort. But at first, their role wasn't on the battlefield. Instead, the North Koreans were relegated to support duties, digging trenches, building fortifications, and taking on the grueling tasks that Russia's depleted forces could no longer handle. It wasn't glamorous, but it was effective, freeing up Russian troops for frontline combat. As the fighting in Kursk escalated, however, the North Koreans were finally sent into battle. And now, it's clear why that decision was delayed. On December 14th, 2024, Ukraine's defense intelligence, GSR, dropped a bombshell on its website and Telegram channel. A group of North Korean soldiers had opened fire on their own allies' vehicles. Yes, friendly fire. But this wasn't just a minor misfire or a stray bullet. This debacle left 8 Russian soldiers dead. And here's the twist. Those weren't ordinary Russian conscripts. They were members of the Akhmat battalions, known for their fierce loyalty and reputation as some of Russia's most elite and feared fighters. What was supposed to be a show of strength turned into yet another devastating humiliation for Russia. If you're familiar with the war in Ukraine, you've likely heard of the infamous Kadyrovites. These fighters are among the most brutal and effective forces in Russia's arsenal. Active since the earliest days of the conflict, their reputation for ruthlessness precedes them. Officially known as the 141st Special Motorized Regiment, the Akhmat Special Forces are no ordinary military unit. Unlike traditional troops, they consist largely of non-Chechen volunteers from across Russia, united by loyalty to one man, Ramzan Kadyrov, the Chechen president. Kadyrov himself is a staunch ally of Vladimir Putin, serving as one of the Russian president's most fervent supporters. Under Kadyrov's tight control, this private army has been deployed to some of the most dangerous flashpoints in Russia's wars, from Syria to Ukraine. The Kadyrovites aren't just known for their combat prowess. Their infamy extends far beyond the battlefield. Even in their home territory of Chechnya, civilians live in fear of their brutal tactics. Accusations of human rights abuses follow them wherever they go. Torture, extrajudicial killings, and abductions are said to be routine under their watch. Before the invasion of Ukraine, Kadyrov commanded an estimated 19,000 of these fighters. Once the conflict began, his forces were assigned some of the most dangerous and brutal roles in the war. Whether executing deserters or leading violent offensives, the Kadyrovites have become synonymous with terror and efficiency. Their deployment to Kursk was no exception. These fighters weren't just sent to reclaim territory, they were sent as a message, a symbol of Russia's resolve to hold the line, no matter the cost. In one of the most contested regions of the war, they were tasked with proving that Kadyrov's forces could endure and deliver results, even under the most extreme circumstances. And yet, for all their fearsome reputation and unyielding brutality, the Kadyrovites didn't fall to Ukrainian forces. They weren't captured, ambushed, or outmaneuvered by the enemy. No, 8 of these hardened fighters met their end at the hands of their own supposed allies. After years of being Russia's final line of defense, feared for their ability to crush anything in their path, these dreaded fighters were taken out by a case of catastrophic miscommunication. The culprits, a group of North Korean soldiers who couldn't even distinguish friend from foe. The irony is almost cruel. A unit of fighters notorious for their discipline and ruthlessness, wiped out by poorly trained troops who were meant to fight alongside them. But how could something like this even happen? How could things go so catastrophically wrong? According to Ukraine's Defense Intelligence, GUR, the explanation is as simple as it is disastrous. A language barrier? That's right, language. A problem that's often overlooked until you're in the middle of a war zone, trying to coordinate under fire.